Democratic Twitter was going nuts yesterday because of this story in the New York Times. Trump's son met with Russian lawyer after being promised damaging information on Clinton. So now, all of partisan Democratic Twitter is saying, that's it, we proved it, collusion. Okay, when do we get to impeach everybody? Well, let's go through the article and see exactly what happened, and then we'll discuss it. So they say, President Trump's eldest son, Donald Trump Jr., was promised damaging information about Hillary Clinton before agreeing to meet with a Kremlin-connected Russian lawyer during the 2016 campaign. According to the 3 advisors to the White House briefed on the meeting and 2 others with knowledge of it. The meeting was also attended by his campaign chairman at the time, Paul J. Manafort, and his son-in-law, Jared Kushner. Mr. Manafort and Mr. Kushner only recently disclosed the meeting, though not its content, in confidential government documents described to the New York Times. The Times reported the existence of the meeting on Saturday, but in subsequent interviews, the advisors and others revealed the motivation behind it. It is unclear whether the Russian lawyer, Natalia Veselnitskaya, actually produced the promised compromising information about Miss Clinton, but the people interviewed by the Times about the meeting said the expectation was that she would do so. In a statement on Sunday, Donald Trump Jr. said he had met with the Russian lawyer at the request of an acquaintance. After pleasantries were exchanged, he said, the woman stated that she had information that individuals connected to Russia were funding the Democratic National Committee and supporting Miss Clinton. Her statements were vague, ambiguous, and made no sense. No details or supporting information was provided or even offered. It quickly became clear that she had no meaningful information. He said she then turned the conversation to adoption of Russian children and the Magnitsky Act, an American law that blacklists suspected Russian human rights abusers. The law so enraged President Vladimir Putin of Russia that he retaliated by halting American adoptions of Russian children. Quote, it became clear to me that this was the true agenda all along, and that the claims of potentially helpful information were a pretext for the meeting, Mr. Trump said. Okay. So, let's break this down and sum it up. What they're saying is Donald Trump's son heard that there was a Russian lawyer connected to the Kremlin who had damaging information on Hillary Clinton, and that, lawyer wanted a meeting. So they get together in the meeting. The Russian lawyer seemingly doesn't have good information against Hillary. She says something like, Russians are funding certain people in the DNC or whatever. And Trump Jr. pressed for more information. Okay, how do you know this? Who exactly is being funded? Can you give me the dollar amounts? Can you give me some evidence? Yada, yada. She didn't really have any evidence to back it up. And then they pivoted to talking about this basically anti-Russian adoption law, which was passed in the U.S., which Vladimir Putin hates, and he's basically lobbying to try to get that changed. And basically the idea is, well, if Trump becomes president, hey, will you work with us on trying to change this? And according to Trump Jr., who of course is not the most trustworthy source ever, he was saying like, well, it became clear that she didn't really have damaging information and she was just trying to tell me that was just a pretext for the meeting to discuss this anti-Russian adoption law, which they want changed. So that's the gist of the story. Now, Democratic Twitter is treating this as worse than Watergate, and allow me to be the first to express, as somebody on the left, the unpopular opinion on the left of whoop-de-frickin-do. So here's how I think about it. Imagine the shoe's on the other foot and see what your reaction is. So, for example, Russia preferred Obama to McCain. Russia also preferred Obama to Romney. They just did, because Obama was significantly less hawkish and wasn't going to escalate with Russia. They wanted to meet and make peace. McCain wanted to escalate. Romney wanted to escalate. So they preferred Obama to Romney and McCain. That's not like, an open question. We know that that's true. So let's say back then, somebody connected to the Russian government told the Obama campaign, hey, by the way, dog, we have information that Mitt Romney has an offshore bank account with $1 billion in it that nobody knows about. So here's that information. And then let's say Obama's campaign brings up that information. Would you say it's collusion on the part of the Democrats and that, Obama did something wrong there? Not only would I say they did nothing wrong, I'd say I would flat out defend the fact that they got that information and that they're relaying that information. Because in what's supposed to be an open and free democracy, the citizenry should be educated and should know what's going on, and that's a piece of information that we should have. That one of the candidates has an offshore bank account with $1 billion and nobody knows about, and they've been dodging fucking taxes forever. By the way, that's not actually true about Mitt Romney. I'm just giving a hypothetical here. But that's information we should know. Because it's a democracy, we're supposed to have information freely available. So, first of all, this damaging info that's given on various politicians, the overwhelming majority of the time, it's stuff that we should know. It's not like, well, come on, they want that to stay secret. Yeah, they want it to stay secret because it shows how shitty of a person they are. So, that's point number one, is that it should be, most of the time this damaging information is leaked. We should know it anyway. It's the same thing with WikiLeaks. Oh my God, look at what we learned in the DNC emails. How did Russia hack the election? Russia hacked the election. But what we learned is the DNC was basically colluding against Bernie Sanders. What we learned is facts about how Debbie Wasserman Schultz was pressuring the media and saying, oh, you're not treating me and Hillary kindly? Well, maybe I'll talk to your boss about that. That was specifically with MSNBC. We learned about how they atheist-shamed Bernie in, the Midwest because they said Hillary's more religious than Bernie. They could play that up so she could try to score points and win that way. The list goes on and on. Changed voting times, tried to hide debates. You name it. These are things we learned. Hillary's speeches. Oh my God, there's this feeling of bigotry against the rich in America nowadays. I have a public position and a private position, and they should be different. We should have totally open market trade borders. Like, this all stuff we should know. But instead, what have the Democrats done? Partisan Democrats. They've said, let's just get mad at the alleged source of the information instead of the person who did all these fucked up things and the people who were responsible for all this fucked up stuff. That would be the DNC, that'd be Debbie Wasserman Schultz, that'd be Donna Brazile slipping questions to Hillary, and that would be Hillary and her campaign. So in other words, blame the messenger, the alleged messenger, which again, we don't even know if that's true. Blame the alleged messenger. And by the way, the 17 intelligence agencies, oh, that's how many people. Right, the fucking Coast Guard concluded, Russia, hacked the election. No, they did a correction the other day. They're like, oh, did we say 17 anyway? We mean like 3. And by the way, when you dig into those 3, James Clapper is one of those people who came to that conclusion. And James Clapper is the guy who's notorious for lying about the NSA not spying. Like, oh, are they collecting information on millions of Americans? Not wittingly. So he's lying. So he's a liar. Our intelligence agents, they're not trustworthy. They got us into fucking Iraq. So spare me your bullshit. So you shouldn't just blame the messenger, because that we should have that information. But put the shoe on the other foot. Would you be mad if Obama heard that Romney or McCain had some offshore bank account with $1 billion in it and they heard it from a Russian source? I don't give a fuck. We should have that information anyway. And think about it another way too. So let's say the UK or Israel, somebody linked to those governments or to one of those governments or the other, either one, they had damaging information on Trump. And they told the Hillary Clinton campaign, hey, by the way, we got information that Donald Trump, you fill in the blank. For him, it'd probably be an even better example. The offshore, bank account that they know about where it's got like $1 billion in it or something, where he's just dodging taxes. Hey, we know this about Trump. And then let's say Hillary Clinton's campaign ran with that information. Would the Democrats say, oh, I'm shocked and appalled that you got that information from a foreign entity, the UK or Israel? No, they'd say, holy shit, you have $1 billion in an offshore bank account, you're not paying taxes on it, you're a scumbag. That's what they'd say about Trump. So notice, the partisan hackery is afoot. Because it's Russia, and because they didn't even get any information, but because it was supposed to be information on Hillary, the Democrats are clutching their pearls. Oh, damaging information on Hillary from a Russian source. Be still my beating heart. This is so impolite. They're acting like it's the biggest crime ever. It's not. It's not. Have you ever considered that maybe Hillary shouldn't have done the things that damaged her reputation? Instead of getting mad at people explaining or exposing the damaging information about Hillary, why aren't you mad at Hillary for doing those things that damaged her reputation? Because you're playing for your team. That's why. You are playing for your team. I don't give a fuck where the information comes from if it's information we should have. Now, in this instance, they didn't happen to get any real good information or anything like that. But this just isn't a big deal. This just isn't a big deal, and Democrats are making it out to be the worst thing in the world. And as I tweeted yesterday, Trump does so many things that you can attack, and it's like you're taking the arguments that have the least punch to them and using those. They had a meeting with somebody linked to Russia where they said mean things about Hillary. Like, that's your argument, instead of Trump signed a bill that has a 6% approval rating that takes away your internet privacy. What are you doing? Trump is bombing babies repeatedly and killing civilians. His first military act as president was a raid that killed an 8-year-old American girl. He signed an executive order that allows coal companies to pollute the waterways. He's deregulating Wall Street left and right. He's escalating in Syria and Afghanistan. The war has a 17% approval rating. It's more unpopular than Vietnam, and Trump is escalating it. They don't talk about any of this stuff. Goldman Sachs wrote his tax plan. It's a giant giveaway to the rich. He said, I'm going to fight against the establishment. Then Goldman Sachs wrote his tax plan. His healthcare bill has a 16% approval rating. It gets a giant tax cut to the rich, cuts $800 billion from Medicaid, kills 28,000 more people every year because they won't have access to basic healthcare. Kicks millions of people off of their insurance. This is the shit you should talk about. But they don't. Instead, Russia mean things about Hillary. The Democrats, listen, here's the bottom line. And this is, I'm so utterly convinced of it, I want to scream it through a megaphone from the rooftop. Even though that would make no sense because I'm reaching more people doing this show than screaming it through a megaphone from a rooftop, but I think you get the point. The Democrats would do infinitely better in the 2018 election and the 2020 election if they all agreed today, we're not going to say another goddamn word about Russia. If none of the candidates, none of the politicians, none of the strategists, none of the media people, if none of them said anything about Russia from now until 2018 or 2020, the Democrats would have a much better chance of getting W's across the board. They bring it up, though, nonstop, and it's only handicapping them, and they think it's helping them. They're like addict. It's like a drug addict. Like, the drug is obviously hurting this addict. Clearly. They look older, slurring their words, don't go to work anymore, barely eat, but they're convinced, like, just one more hit, bro, and this'll be the one. I'll be in euphoria forever. It'll be utopia. It'll be so great. Let me. Oh, that's it. That's the spot. And everybody's looking at that, like, you're a fucking mess. Look at you. What are you doing? But they're like, no, I got this nailed, bro. I got it nailed. That's the Democrats in Russia. In their little insular bubble, they're like, yeah, we got him on that Russia story, huh? High five. But everybody else is like, dude, that person just lost their job. That person just lost their health care. That other family hasn't had a raise in 12 years. You know, jobs are being shipped to China or Bangladesh. All these people have real problems. We just blew $1 trillion on another war for no goddamn reason. And the Democrats like, Russia, bro, just one more hit of the Russia story. Come on, this will be the best one, I'm telling you, bro. This will really get it, and we'll win the election, and we'll never have to worry again.